Hello.
Yes. Should I start, sir?
Yes, I'm here.
In
Namaste to you all.
Namaste, sir. Namaste. Very good afternoon to one and all. I hope we are audible to all the participants and the resource persons. Can anyone confirm?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
You are audible.
Thank you so much. Without further ado, I would request Vipasha to kindly take over. Over to you, Vipasha.
Thank you, ma'am. India was the motherland of a race, and Sanskrit, the mother of Europe's languages. She was the mother of her philosophy, though through the Arabs of much of her mathematics, through the Buddha of the ideas embodied in Christianity, through the village community of self-government and democracy. Mother India is in many ways the mother of us all. Good afternoon, everyone. I, Vipasha Tilotia, welcome you all on the behalf of the Bhopal School of Social Sciences, Bhopal, to this webinar organized by the Department of Humanities in association with Internal Quality Assurance Cell, IQAC, which is sponsored by the Indian Council of Philosophical Research, ICPR. I feel privileged to extend my warm welcome in absentia of our respected principal, Reverend Dr. Father John P.J., Vice Principal, Dr. Sister Soni Korean, today's special guest and speaker, Professor D. N. Tiwari, and Dr. Father Anthony, students and all the other dignitaries present in the meeting. Welcome everyone to this national webinar on basic values and Indian culture. Light is a symbol of brightness and prosperity. As sunlight expels the darkness of night, similarly, blessings bring prosperity and happiness in our life. To make this afternoon a blessed one, let us invoke Goddess Saraswati by virtually lighting the lamp of knowledge and wisdom.
दीप जले प्रभु नाम रहे मेरे मंदिर में दीप जले प्रभु नाम रहे मेरे मंदिर में साँझ सवेरे ये मन गाए यीशु तेरा नाम प्रभु यीशु तेरा नाम साँझ सवेरे ये मन गाए
Presenting before you all the college anthem of the Bhopal School of Social Sciences.
BSSS marching on, BSSS marching on to be a leader and a reformer, to be a catalyst and to be a very blessed. BSSS marching on. princess, marching on to be a learner and a reviver, to be a teacher and to be a mentor, and above all to be a change with human values be instilled in the changing world.
May I request HOD, Department of Humanities, Mrs. Naina Singh ma'am, to officially welcome the guest.
Good afternoon, everyone.
You have muted yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. The cultural
Good
fabric
afternoon.
of India is classified through an array of philosophical ideologies, including religion, architecture, and art, which accentuates its presence at a global stage. However, the true essence of the multi-hued landscape is the value system that joins the dots and creates a vision for tomorrow. In a pursuit to understand and revive the ultimate traditional setup and its streamlined values, the Department of Humanities, in association with Interquality Assurance Cell, presents an insightful discussion on the topic Basic Values in Indian Culture. We are honored to have you all as a distinguished panel, Dr. Father Anthony, Dean SVT Vidya Bhavan Institute of Philosophy and Religion, and Professor D.N. Tiwari, former head Department of Philosophy, DHU, who will be edifying the audience on the nitty-gritty of Indian culture and its core values. I extend my warm welcome on behalf of the BSS fraternity to our esteemed speakers for the day. With utter conviction, I believe that the audience will gain a balanced perspective on the philosophical arena of traditions and culture. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now, without further ado, it's my honor to introduce you to Professor Devendra Nath Tiwari, Head, Department of Philosophy and Religion, Banaras Hindu University, Varanasi. He was a ICCR Professor of Sanskrit and Indian Philosophy at MGI Mauritius. Presently, Adjunct Professor, Center for Spiritual Studies, Islamic University of Science and Technology, Kashmir. Visiting Fellow, Department of Philosophy and Religion, and also Bharat Adhyan Kredam, BHU. There are various books and papers published with his name, like the Upanishadic View of Life, the Central Problems of Bharathari's Philosophy, ICPR, New Delhi, Indian Perspectives of Environmental Ethics, etc. Papers published in international and national journals of philosophy, more than 130. And he has already delivered more than 300 lectures as visiting professor in several Indian and foreign universities. So we are delighted to have you on board with us today. May I request you to share your words of wisdom with us on the topic basic values embodied in Indian culture and their relevance to national reconstruction. Over to you, sir. So please unmute yourself.
Thank you, Dr. Naina Singh ji, for inviting me to start my lecture. Respected Father John P.J., Father Anthony, the next speaker, Premalaya. Shiba Joseph, coordinator of IRAQ, and authorities of ICPR who sponsored this webinar, and above more than Dr. Sangeeta Mahashabde, who personally talked to me many times, invited me to share my views with the scholars in Bhopal School of Social Sciences. So I am personally thankful to all of you. Today's topic is values embodied in Indian culture. And its relevance. Now, if you go through the dictionary or Google search, you will find a number of definitions about the values. And you will observe there that most of the scholars who define value define in the way of their interest, allegiances to their system and to their faith. So, when we talk about values, basically we talk about two sorts of its foundation. The first is the values which are given in the books. Books means the revealed books. And that is obligatory for them. And sometimes they say that, oh, okay, this is only value because that is put there in the holy books. So the values come from the holy books and you have to just follow. You won't have to exercise your mind to see whether this value is really value that can be extended socially to all of you. We are not required to give any stress to the mind, just we have to follow because that value is there mentioned in the book, great book. The other way we find people think that value is not something given. Value is that the humanity creates. Otherwise, materialists may say that in a proportionate mixture of atoms of different atomic material atoms, the values will be created. But so far the history of philosophy and religion is concerned, we won't have find any philosophy, any thought that says that values are created by the association of the atomic physical atoms. So physical, that is material philosophy, materialistic philosophy, that is very honored by the humanist philosophers, is not logically and epistemologically justified and capable of explaining how the atoms can create values, human values. So human values, for accepting the human values, one has to accept the that value is produced, created, or something is made value by your conduct. So you have so many desires and you can accomplish your desires only through duty. And when you perform a duty means a duty to others. When you perform a duty and you think that yes, this duty is for the welfare of the others, and the other think that oh, we are satisfied, it is good, this pleases me, he performed good for me. So some are the other values you are exchanging with your uh, duties, performing duties. So value is that you exchange with satisfaction, richness, enrichment, and positive signs you perceive on the face of the others to whom you perform the duties. So values are given also. When these values you experience and you do according to that, these values are set uh, well for the welfare of the others, and that can without any limitation of territory, limitation of race, community, can be extended to all of you, even to the animals, wild animals, to all the communities. Uh, the, the physical uh, elements like air, uh, water, sun, etc. So you perform a duty, and your duty is exchanged with the enrichment, with your satisfaction, and the satisfaction of the uh, things or persons, soundness of the things or persons you perform your duty to them. So this say that yes, your duty is exchanged by the value, this value. This may be a value, different values like benevolence, generosity, uh, truthfulness, and so many. I will come to them later. So these are the two sources. This does not mean that the next one denies the book. They accept also the book, importance of the book, to know the values, to know other things also. But that is for your enrichment, and to that serves only as guide to help you in your exercising the duties uh, that can be extended even to those who are not having faith, having belief in your faith, that is heterodox, or that you can say that those who are adversaries of your faith, your values can be extended, your duties, your values can be extended to all. So there is no limitation in the exercise of the value, and when they are exercised, they are treated as, the person is treated as virtuous. So what are the basic values? So very primarily, you know that when you go through the Islam, they say that the basic, very basic value is uh, brotherhood and peace, brotherhood and peace. And Christianity, they believe in service and uh, love to service and love to God, and they define love to God in different ways, love to humanity and all. And so is Hinduism also. Uh, Basic values they consider, Hinduism consider uh, welfare of others, humanity, welfare of the humanities is the basic value, primary value. But you know, in Indian culture, uh, there is not one or a number of values uh, given much importance, uh, but it is a system of values. System, how to understand the system of the values. So you know, Indian thinking believe in not in the uh, not in the evolution theory of the creation, but it believes in the organic theory of the creation. So when we say that system of values, So we have to understand that uh, there are some values. If they are not found in human beings cannot be called so, human even. So they are very basic values. Isolated from them, one cannot think of man as a man. So what are the values that are essential for a human to be called a human? So this we can say that this type of uh, and likewise, what are the values without which, without performing, without without adopting which, you cannot be called a virtuous man, a social man, a man in the society who can, uh, whose ideas, whose thoughts, whose duties are always for the welfare of the others in the surrounding. So these things you have to find out in Indian culture. So, but before understanding the system of values, because here there is not one or two values, but here is system of values. So let us try to understand the culture and then the system of values. Uh, may I ask how much time I have been given? 1 hour?
20 minutes.
How much?
20 minutes.
20 minutes.
Yes. And plus 5 minutes for the question answer session.
Oh, this is, I thought that I have been given 1 hour. Okay, no matter. So, let me have a very brief account of the basic values in Indian culture. The first one is there is there is wonderful capacity of uh, assimilation, that is assimilating character in Indian culture. By assimilating culture, I want to say that it accepts others, not only it accepts, but it celebrates with them. So different modern things are coming in our culture, but our culture is such that it absorbs all the diversity in its own way. So this is the beauty of Indian culture, that it has a assimilating culture. The second thing is that divinity. So many things are there, because when you go to this point, assimilating factor, you will find that our philosophy is that the same with same sat and the value principle Rit is there in the cosmos, guiding the cosmos, and in your mind also, and in the nature also. So the same law, the same value is there. So the philosophy here is, if there is same reality, same law working in the nature, working in you, and working in the universe, so you have to accept the existence of each and everything, not for the utility sake, but for their existence self. So about utility, it has a uh, different idea. The idea of Indian philosophy for the utility is that you can use the things, not destroy the existence. So it is not just like sustainable development. It is different from that. Because here there is a respect for clean air and everything. You can enjoy, you can eat, you can enjoy, use the uh, fruits, leaves, and branches, dry branches of the tree. That tree gives you in gives you against your service to it. If you are watering it, you are taking care of it. The tree provides you fruit, leaves, flowers, and all that. So these you can use, but you cannot destroy, you cannot cut the trees for your uh, constructing the industries and buildings. So here use is a difference because we accept that there is also divinity there. So divinity is also a value. The first and foremost value is knowledge. Knowledge is value. So some of you know that Socrates defined virtue is knowledge, but more than that, Jnaneva Dharma. It is before Christ, uh, given in the Mahabharata of Patanjali. Jnaneva Dharma. Before that, it is found in the Upanishads. Jnaneva Dharma. So Dharma means value. So, Jnani value. Why? Because if knowledge had not been value, nobody would have tried to learn it. But now you see, even each and every houses are turned into schools. No, nobody likes to even marry to a wife or to a husband who is not educated. So you see, why you want to learn knowledge? Why you learn to cultivate your knowledge? Because it is a value, it's the highest value. Had it not been value, the Vedas and the ancient classical texts, they would have not been meaningful for you. They would have not been existing as a guiding principle in your life till today. And that's why you can say that the schools and every institutions, they are expanding day by day. It is for what? For disseminating the knowledge. So knowledge is the latest value. And you saw the knowledge is value because it it causes the incentive in mind for the duty. So if the knowledge is right, the duty incentive for the duty is right. And then accordingly we perform the duty. So there is honesty. And honesty also becomes the value. Now you see divinity here in one line I can define. If everything is divine here, that is the perspective. Even there is divinity there in the air, fire, everything. And there you find the Veda, the first sukta of the Rig Veda is Agni Sukta. Then you find Usha Sukta and so many suktas are there. Uh, they are they are praised, Astuti, praised. Why? Because we perceive divinity in them. And divinity here means they provide us for our existence, for our maintenance, for our uh, progress, for our cultivation. We get so many things from them, and that's why there is divinity. Wherever you find something for your uh, uh, for the cause of your promoting being, existence, there is divinity. If the trees are giving you fruit for your survival, there is divinity. If the air, without air, you cannot live for a while, for a second. There will be suffocation and there will be no life if the air does not blow, even for a second, for a minute. Likewise, fire and everything, there is divinity. Without fire, no life is possible. So there, if the sun is not there in the sky for 1 year or even less than 1 year, there will be no flowering in the plants, no agriculture is possible, no no woman will be pregnant, and no creation will continue. So fire is also uh, devata, divinity. So to perceive divinity is to say that our conduct to all others, even in surrounding, to ourselves, our mentality, our society, and to the whole cosmos, our conduct to others must be venerable. So this is for what? Why should I behave venerably to others, even the evils? Because it is what you by nature is. You are assigned to this divinity, and nothing else is assigned naturally to you. So if this is assigned to you, to everyone, so you have to conduct venerable to each other as if you are conducting it. On that basis, later on Vivekananda also explored that to to serve the cause of poor, to serve the cause of humanity, is to love the God, is to serve the God, and like that. There is Narayan, Narayan of Tagore, Rabindranath Tagore. So every concept developed from this unique concept of perceiving divinity to each and every particle of this universe, this world. Now you see, so many things I have to speak, but you have given only 20 minutes. And the basic value is work, kartabya, work. So many researches since beginning, since the Vedas has been done on the work. And Vedas is action oriented. It considered that kriya eva jivanam, the life is action, a process of duties and responsibilities. And this process ends only when you are liberated. Even death is not the end of the process. Death is also a step in the uh, process, in the uh, and the beauty of the Indian text about the value is that it does not accept life only in me or in you. It is not like that I born and I found the life, and after my death the life will be destroyed. Life was there before myself, my birth, and life will be there after my birth in the form of different things. Even there is no human life, there was life in the universe. So eternity of life, that is continuity of life in the sense that is eternal. So sometimes eternity is explained in terms of breathless continuity. Breathless continuity. So for this, life is itself a value, and you make it valuable. Uh, Next point, if you have time to give me for certain things. About the values, the Western mode of thinking. Think about value is subjective, value is objective. But if the subjectivist, they criticize the objective theory of the values much, and objectivists they criticize the subjective theory very much. But if we apply Indian perspective, especially the uh, Indian culture perspective, cultural perspective, value is neither solely subjective nor solely objective, but it does not deny both of them. Relatively it is subjective, and relative to the objectivity it is objective. How can we understand? Suppose we want to understand the Indian culture. One example, and then I will conclude. The Ganges, the river Ganges, it originates from the Gomukh, comes through Haridwar, Varanasi to Kolkata. When it falls down, it carries with it so many medicines, so many plants, so many sand particles, and several things. Some things it it left, it leaves somewhere, and it pick up some other things and carry on. So this is the process through which you can understand the Ganga as a culture and the Indian culture. Indian culture is not made at a time, and so many things. A system is there in understanding the Indian culture uh, and values. So now I am coming about the uh, system of values in Indian culture. Only 10 minutes I want to take. I'm allowed?
Yes, sir.
Hmm? How much? 10 minutes. Okay, okay. So you see, the first and foremost importance regarding the values embedded in Indian culture, I think, is its management of desires, human desires. So desires play this basic role in performance of our duty and our getting our fruits by doing actions. So how the desires are managed? It is for the first time, and even when now only Indian text, ancient text, Veda and Upanishad and Gita, they manage the human desires as institutions of life. Basically, we have all our desires are classified into four groups. The first is the desire for wealth, prosperity, the desire for sex, and begetting son, child, etc., and the desire for donation, gift giving, uplifting the society, downtrodden of society, and so many uh, dharma, dharmic ichha. And the lastly, moksha ichha, to get liberation. So you see, the attitude of managing this is that people think that in brahmacharya we practice dharma uh, Purushartha. No. Purushartha is not given. Purushartha is made out of your labor, out of your practice. So Artha Purushartha and other Purusharthas, you live in your life, and when they are satisfied, they become Purushartha. For example, you see, in Brahmacharya ashram up to 32, 35 nowadays, you have desires to get education and skill, so many skills from all corners of your life, all corners of the world, to make your soldiers strong enough so that it can bear the coming 75 years of your life. So all your desires must be managed in a way that you have to desire for a better skill, how to get, what are the means, who are the resource person, how can I do my PhD, how can I be fit for that job, what skill is needed. So everything is trained, is, is practiced by you for making yourself able to enter into the household from where you can live your desires for wealth and prosperity and sex. Two categories of desires you live in the household. When you are prepared well to enter into the household and to live your desires, you manage your desires of wealth and prosperity and sex in such way that earn more and more, but with respect to the wealth. So, how much you need in your life, wealth, you decide. Otherwise, if you think that indolence, so all the prosperity of the world, you will not get it satisfied. All the earth you will get, but you will not get the earth purusharth, accomplishment of earth purusharth. Earth purusharth uh, will be satisfied when you think that, oh, that is enough. Now it is time to shift to enjoy the other side of desires. So after getting enter into the household, you enter into the uh, um, into practicing the two sorts of desires and for two values. The first is uh, desires for wealth and prosperity, and when it is satisfied, no more. You say no more, then it becomes artha purushartha. it becomes Artha Purushartha, value. So your desires are sublimated to values when they are satisfied well. There is no lust for the same desires again. So is the sex also. Sex, 90%, 99 years people are also there who always so lecherous that they think about the sex and all other things. So this means that 99 years they have passed, but their desire for sex is not satisfied. Their body is not supporting, even though they are not satisfied for the purpose, for the sexual desires. Their sexual desires are not satisfied. But when it is satisfied, you get kama purusartha siddha. You get the kama desires well satisfied, and then you think about other desires to live. And that is what? That is dharma purusartha, to help to others, to perform for the welfare of the community, the society, the globe, the trees, and all the surroundings, so that your mental environment, your physical environment, your social environment becomes sound, and your society in which you live feels happiness. So for this, uh, practicing this, when the dharma purusartha is satisfied, then you shift to the what sort of desires I have to live. So desire is moksha. Moksha means to renunciate all the desires. If all the desires are complete, then I am practicing for the freedom from all the desires. So practicing the freedom for all the desires, you get liberated. So this is freedom from all the desires, passions, our religion says interest, that we call freedom. Freedom, almost you can say the freedom from all worldly things. But you are here in the world. That is also a value, a system, one of the system value associated with our studenthood, our household whole life, our vendor life, and lastly, our renunciate life. So this is an institution, a system in the organic whole. And if one step is uh, evil, is corrupted, uh, all other parts are also corrupted. So they are values because they are extended not only to that, but only to everything. Uh, it works for the welfare of all of them. It is because of that they are called values. Again, you say very often misconceived about the duty of. One question I asked: why you are born? Why you were born? What is the cause of your getting birth? You will say that my parents enjoyed and I came out after 9 months. But this is a very uncultured reply, not cultivated reply. Indian culture replies that has a value in the value system of India. That is, in the last birth, you you have not paid all the debts you owed from your parents, owed from your atmosphere, your teachers, your gurus, and your seers, ancestors. So, had you paid off those debts, you would have not born. But it is for paying off that you have got this birth. And here, if you pay off that debt, you will get freedom from the life. So this is also way to freedom. So here is more autonomy. In Hinduism, Hindu value practices, you have not one value or the other. you can achieve to your by jnana, bhakti, karma, by dhyan, so many ways. You can practice, you can worship anything. This is the beauty of the Indian value of life. That you can worship. There is no theological dogma. You can be an atheist, but you can be a very good man, very cultured man, because you practice the values. There is no theological dogma. You can worship a snake, worship a tree, worship a river. You can worship to none. You are free. You have full freedom to worship or not to worship. But you see, whatever you will do, you will get the fruits of your own actions. So your action will decide your future. The present and the future will be decided by your action, not by worship. But when you talk about when you practice about your duty to others, you must consider that your duties must be bendable to them. Either you see, so many persons are there. So suppose two students are there reading with a very known scientist, popular scientist. One of them, after learning how to prepare the missiles, how to launch that, you can say that, oh, very nice, I have got a power. And now I have the power, I have the capacity to save my teacher, my community, and all the persons uh, by this device. But the other, who also was a student, who does not understand the depth, you can think that, oh, this teacher, though I have been his student, he never accept my views, and his all the followers not. All the community of his all his community does not accept my faith, does not uh, follow my faith. They should follow. If they do not follow, they won't have right to live in this world. So he can misuse that education, that training, that skill for your destruction, for the destruction of the nation. So the terrorism starts. But if you have this value practice of paying up the debts to those who have taught me something, you have got so many things from nature, from your parents, from your society, from your teachers. They have no without the boundary of race, caste, and community. So you have your duty. Duty to what? Not to destroy them, because you believe in the system of paying up the debt. If you have debt, you are indebted to something for someone for some values, you have to pay up that values. Otherwise, you have to come again in this life after death, and you have to pay up. So this birth and death process will continue till you are getting rid of or free from all the debts. So pay up the debt and get liberation. This is also a philosophy there. Satisfy your desires, make it Purusartha, and get liberated. This is also the way of life. Dharma is also a way of life. Karma yoga is also a way of life. Bhakti yoga is also a way of life. And in Bengal, all these are in practice. So about the adversaries, Indian culture is very pointedly clear that, oh, okay, adversary faith, we should always have a respectable respectable outlook to all of them. Not because someone is evil or someone is causing evil to me, I have to change myself according to him. I have to perform my duty. I cannot I cannot change my attitude to others. That attitude is to perceive them as divine and to conduct venerably to them. Let them let them treat anyway. They have their faith and according they do. And what they have faith, they will get the fruits of their karmas. So why you think? He is responsible who performing evil to you. He will have to suffer, not you. You will suffer your own uh, fruits of the actions, and the adversary will suffer his own. So you won't have to conflict with that. But if there is conflict between the so conflict that your existence is challenged, then you have to act like a brave hero who can use any weapon to protect yourself, to protect your community, to protect your nation, and to protect your glory. Thank you very much for this. Namaste. Over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. It was great listening to you. Now we are open for questions and queries. If you have any questions, please type them into the chat box. All right, it's time for the other part of the session. And we are honored and happy to have another guest speaker, Dr. Father Anthony Putusheri, with us today. Dean of Studies, SVD, Vidya Bhavan Institute of Philosophy and Religion. Visiting Management Faculty. I request everyone to please mute yourself. Visiting Management Faculty at Bhopal School of Social Sciences, Bhopal. His early educations include BA in Economics, Mahatma Gandhi University, Kerala, Bachelor's of Theology, Janana Deepa Vidyapeeth, Pune, MA and MPhil in Philosophy, Pune University, MBA, Symbiosis International University, Pune, PhD in Philosophy of Design, Madras University. Some research papers published with his name, like dwelling on the ontological conditions for designing, ways of being of equipment, etc. Father, we are really happy to have you on board with us. Please do enlighten us with your words of wisdom on today's topic, engaging some dilemmas and pathways in national reconstruction.
Thank you. I suppose I'm audible. Am I audible? Okay. And my PPT, is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Is the PPT visible to you?
Yes, Father, it is visible.
Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm honored to share a space with the distinguished Professor D.N. Devendranath Tiwari, sir, and happy to listen to him, a very comprehensive view on the value system of India. Thanks to Dr. Father John, the principal of BSS College, and Dr. Shiva, Dr. Sangeeta, Dr. Naina, for making this possible for me. My theme is, as it is shown in the PPT, is engaging some dilemmas and pathways in a national reconstruction. India celebrates the platinum jubilee of its independence soon, and people are talking about strategies for new India, nation building, Sankalp se Siddhi. These are the mantras we hear everywhere, every day. How shall philosophy contribute to this effort of making a new India? What are the challenges and dilemmas we face when we engage in philosophy? When we engage philosophy in nation building? In next 30 minutes, 30 to 35 minutes, my interest is to show you some possibilities and openings that lie hidden in our pathways. For that purpose, I have taken one each themes from India's political life, namely democracy, then culture, and from art and economic. These constitute the axiology. They are all based on value, but then I present it as a kind of dilemmas which we come across. I begin with the question, what is democracy? We often say India is the largest democracy in the world. What is the presumption behind that claim? Is it freedom of elections and ballots? Does it mean that no country is as big as India, which chooses its leaders through a ballot system, through election? I think limiting democracy just to the mechanical act of voting is too narrow. Democracy as a universal value is much more than that. Therefore, I like to define democracy as a public discussion or interactive reasoning. Amartya Sen would call, economist, Amartya Sen would call it a public reasoning, democracy as a public reasoning. And what does that mean? What do we mean when we say democracy is a public discussion, interactive reasoning, or public reasoning? It is the freedom to argue and to express your opinion, openness to consider alternative views. Public reasoning includes opportunity for citizens to participate in political discussions and to influence the public choice. Then what about the election? Election, of course, it is one of the important ways of public discussions, one of the ways of making public discussions effective, one of the ways of making democracy effective. No doubt, it's a very important way, but that is not the only way. When the opportunity to vote is combined with the opportunity to speak and listen and argue and oppose without fear, our democracy becomes effective. My second point just a minute. I'm trying to show you my PPT. Okay. My second point is it is a temptation to attribute the Indian commitment to democracy simply to the impact of British influence. Some consider democracy is a gift of Western world that India simply accepted when it became independent. But that is a myth. If you understand, if you look into the tradition, look into the history, long traditions of public discussion can be found across the world, not only in ancient Greece, not only in India, but also in many different cultures. And in this context, it is good to look at, it is worth considering the historical roots of democracy in India. In the history of democracy in India, considerable credit must be given to the early Indian philosophical traditions. Why? Because you find atheistic and theistic traditions existing side by side. You find some philosophical systems ontologically material in nature and at the same time spiritual in the case of morals and ethics. If you look into the Buddhism, you would find the so-called Buddhist councils are excellent examples of democracy. Indian Buddhists had a great commitment to discussions as a means of social progress. Actually, those councils were aimed at settling disputes between different points of view. They invited different schools of thoughts. No doubt, Indian philosophical traditions had its contribution to Indian democracy. I also would like to present something more than Indian philosophy. Indian scriptures also had their share. And nothing can stand at par with our epics and Puranas when it comes to discussing about their share to Indian democracy. Our epics, our Puranas, they are full of dialogues, dilemmas, alternative perspectives. And we encounter plenty of arguments and counter arguments in our scriptures. Debates, disputes. Perhaps the best example is the famous debate in Bhagavad Gita between Lord Krishna and Arjuna. It was on the moral issue of rightness and action. My interest is not that, but then my interest is to tell you that we had these kind of debates available in the scriptures. In Gita, Krishna's argument is a one argument and Arjuna's is a failed argument. But at the same time, a defeated argument need not be always wrong. And we have plenty of them. We have plenty of them defeated arguments in our scriptures, philosophies, traditions, cultures, in our everyday life. These are not just defeated arguments. These are alternative views. My point is this: our democracy becomes perfect, effective, when we try to understand the failed voices, the failed arguments, and analyze their arguments. There is also a valuation issue. Democracy cannot be evaluated in utilitarian terms. Many thinkers would argue that democracy is not a means to end. It is an end in itself. In other words, let us say political freedom, civil rights have the importance of their own. Their value to the society, your freedom's value to the society does not have to be established in terms of their contribution to economic growth or any other social achievement. Freedom, human freedom, political freedom, civil rights, they have their own, they stand on themselves. They are not utilitarian in the sense they need not be proved, their worth need not be proved in terms of their contribution to something else. But then I am interested in the economic side of the democracy also, because I'm interested in a bit of management. In recent times, there is a lot of importance given to making India a manufacturing export powerhouse. This is not a small vision, but we must also ask questions. I'm sure that there are economic students listening to me from the humanities division. Are we trying to replicate China's success? Will Chinese path even be feasible for India when we try to make manufacturing an export powerhouse? I suggest an alternative path. Increasing our presence in global services by strengthening our human capital. When I say global services, it could mean services like consulting, legal, and financial advisories, education, telemedicine. These all things are ripe in the pandemic time because we have developed technology for that. These all are ripe for globalization. But then it requires building on an old vision of India, increasing openness and liberalization, and dwelling more into our democratic views, values. Just to give you an example, no customer cares from where you buy, where they buy a TV set, as long as the TV set is working well. But then if they are asked to share their medical or their financial data, the medical data, their firm's strategy, their company's strategy to a consulting company, these people would care very much. They may ask a question. The first question they would be asking, from where these companies are, from where these consulting companies are. Will these companies protect their data? Are they transparent and effective democracy? Are they driven by rules of law? We will have a particular advantage over authoritarian countries like China and Russia when it comes to the global services. And it helps if the provider comes from a transparent and tolerant democracy driven by law, then we will have an extra advantage. Our democracy will reap some economic advantage for us. So that is my first point on democracy. My second point is on space. We say being in this world is spatial. We are spatial beings. We can exist only spatially here. But however, space is also very ambiguous terms. A very ambiguous term. Space is one of the most intimately experienced phenomena for us. A basic condition of human existence, yet it is very least reflected in design field, very least reflected in the policy making. So I would like to draw your attention into that also. Space, when I talk about, is not a mere empty container into which we all enter. We all are placed. We don't exist in a room that way. In these classrooms, if you can look at that slide over there. It is the slide of a classroom, a picture of a classroom, teacher and students over there. We encounter space as a something which is space is not developing or ready-made kept over there for us to enter. Space is developed, expanded in our concernful dealings with the world. I'll come to that soon. We encounter space as a combination always, as a combination of materiality, or you call it physicality, meaning, and practice. But The ordinary meaning of the word space hides its conceptual complexity. Things, parks, schools, shopping malls, neighborhoods, grounds, they are easily understood as space when it comes to, when we talk about space. Classrooms, because they have a material structure, they have a physicality. But physicality alone does not make space. You just observe the slide over there, observe that hole. There's a teacher over there, and the teacher, imagine the teacher is there. I would say the teacher has more space than all of them. Not just because teacher is having a lot of physical space over there. Imagine now another situation where the teacher is sitting among the students, sitting in a crammed classroom. Even then, the teacher will have more space, because physicality alone does not make space. Teacher, by the very power, very authority which he has more space in a classroom. So space, what I want to say, is invested with personal and shared meaning. Though the meaning is very integral to the space, designers, policy makers, they focus mostly on the material structure of the place. I would show you at another slide, which would be much interesting for you to understand this, what I'm talking about. It is common that we refer space to rooms, neighborhoods, villages, towns, and cities. But then, do we recognize that even things have got speciality? You look at the slide over there, there are three different pictures over there. The first one is a bus, a crowded bus. And this bus is the only bus for the villagers to the town. That's why it is so crowded. The bus expands the space of the villagers. And equipment can enlarge the sense of space. Look at the second one, the man with the bow and arrow. When it is said the Paleolithic hunter, when the hunter drops his axe, hand axe, and picked up bow and arrow, his space expands before him. Things once it was beyond his physical reach, his mental horizon has now become part of his world. Equipment, things can expand the space, enlarge somebody's space. I want you to expand this idea into a little more. Space is also, not also, always political. It is political in nature. Space is bound up with the questions of freedom, democracy, social justice. But then what is the problem? Its political dimensions is always concealed in its material construction. And design somehow participate in the construction of this invisibility. I'm not going to explain it now because of the lack of time, but if you have got time and internet connection, you can just browse through into this Robert Moses law bridges. These are law bridges built by a person called Robert Moses, an engineer in the United States, sometime back, 1930s. These bridges were built just before the entrance of American beaches. Actually, they are highly politically biased, racist bridges. Now, because they prevent the entry of the black to the white-dominated beaches. space is always political, sir. Things are always political. Now, look at the other picture. Many women, it's a woman in an Indian kitchen. Many women experience home, particularly kitchen, as a place designed in favor of patriarchal authority. Often associated with kitchen is often associated with extreme form of abuse, boredom, back-breaking labor. Can we think about spaces which would be more democratic in nature, which would be helping women to assert herself? I want you to look into the next slide. Have a look at that. Now ask for yourselves. So far, I have been talking about material things, how material things could be spatial, and how material things could be infused with the democratic values or undemocratic values. Now ask for yourselves, can non-material things be spatial? Are laws, policies, procedures, even interpretations, can they be spatial? Of course, they could be spatial. Therefore, we must ask a question. How shall we use our spaces that in such a way that we make us everyone engaged actors in the society? How shall we create our space more democratic, more sustainable and inclusive? Not only material spaces, material structures, but even non-material. How shall we talk of creating spaces that imprints our values, our memories, our traditions? I'm trying to give a twist to the space by incorporating some development concept into that. In recent times, a favorite theme of everyone is development. And it is more of a political narrative today than an economic term today. Hardly we define, again, we don't define what it means, development. As philosophers, we need to ask a question. What development is, and how do we measure development? It's not only a question for philosophers, even economists. Everyone should ask that. An easy and a mechanical answer to this is identifying development with GDP, gross domestic product. But everyone who is reading paper knows today GDP, gross domestic product, is a misleading indicator. It fails to take into account many dimensions of distributive justice. Therefore, professors like Martha Nussbaum, some other way also we may pronounce, or Amartya Sen, they all, this Indian economist, or Abhijit, they all would try to rephrase that question when it comes to the development. One should ask not that how much resource one has, but one must ask questions like what a person is actually able to do. Not that how much resources a person is able to command, or what level of satisfaction she or he has, or a group of people has. But we must ask a question, what are the opportunities and liberties? Yeah. What are the opportunities and liberties? Hello, I'm listening to you. What are the opportunities and liberties a person has? When we ask the questions like this, then expanding spaces of people and expanding democracy are closely connected. My last point is on art. What you can see there is a picture from Meghdut by Ram Gopal Verma. It is based on Kalidasa's Meghdut. My reflection, the last part of my reflection is on art. It would take maybe 6 to 7 minutes. Traditionally, an artwork is appreciated for the sake of aesthetic pleasure it generates. When I say work of art or artwork, it includes sculpture. It can mean a painting, a piece of music, a movie, or oratory, or handicraft, all these things. Art, they are all artwork, work of art. But then when art is aestheticized, it loses its primary function. The primary function of art is disclosing truth. Heidegger would say art is a site of truth. It's not only just Heidegger would say. Even Indian aesthetics also would agree to that. I don't deny the importance of aesthetics. Bharata Muni, in his famous book Natya Shastram, says no meaningful idea is conveyed if rasa is not evoked, if aesthetics is not evoked. Aesthetics is important. Art is expected to evoke aesthetics. Art is expected to evoke aesthetics, rasa, or entertainment we call it, or pleasure. No right word to express that. But then, however, Bharata Muni says that is not the primary goal. The primary goal is not to develop, not to evoke this aesthetics. The primary goal is to create a parallel life in front of the audience, to create a world so that they experience the essence of their consciousness, so that they could reflect and question spiritual and moral questions. When does an artwork works? When does an artwork can be appreciated? Philosophers says, like Heidegger, or even Indian aesthetics, an artwork works when it speaks for itself. When people admire the artwork, not because it is made by a famous artist. What you see there is Guernica by Pablo Picasso. Not because it's made by a famous artist, but an art should stand on its own. An art is said to be working when it sets up a world for the people, when it creates a world, when it creates a parallel world, when it binds a community, when it changes the ways of thinking of people. The picture over there, what you are seeing is Guernica. It's a Picasso's painting, Pablo Picasso. What you see is civilians in Spain in 1937 were bombed by German forces and the Spanish government. The painting is a perfect depiction of inhumanity, the horror of modern war. I thought this would be fitting for the present time. It is a warning of what humankind is capable of. If you have time, it is good to Google in the Guernica, and the story behind it. It is interesting. I'm not venturing into that because of the lack of time over here. We'll also see the Potato Eaters by Vincent van Gogh. Again, the painter, the author of this painting, Vincent van Gogh, wants to present a very harsh reality of country life, want to create a new world. So he gave the peasants, if you look at it, the peasants have very coarse faces, very bony and working hands. Here the art is presenting, creating a world of potato eaters. My point here is, in our times, our contemporary times, art estranges from its primary function. What is its primary function? Primary function is art is a truth disclosure. But in art in our times is taken over by aesthetics. It is no longer providing guidance for how to live. Rather, it is designed to provide sensual experience. You think about yourselves. Why do you watch a movie? And when do you appreciate a movie? Aesthetic approach to art become problematic because it decontextualizes the artwork from its specific historical and cultural world. It become a thing to be displayed in your room, in your guest room, or in a museum, or in your office room. It decontextualizes all its relations from its intellectual and practical interest. And art industry today, film industry is part of that. The art industry associated with it does not let a work of art to be viewed as a truth disclosure, but they want us to view it as a kind of vehicle of enjoyment. When what is the danger? The danger is this: when art is consigned only to a vehicle of enjoyment, it stops becoming an absolute need. And art becomes an important thing, a great art, only when it becomes an absolute need. Art is answering a problem which a society is facing. Art is an answer to that. But today, art is an option, a choice among many. You have plenty in your mall. You pick up one. It becomes a cultural choices among many. And then art loses its binding character. Art becomes an option among many. So when the purpose of art is relegated, is narrowed down only to stress relief, enjoyment, art loses its questioning character. It becomes harmless. It becomes ineffectual. Artwork in such a tradition is popularized more and more as something to deal with subjective feelings, emotions. As I said at the beginning, the purpose of art is, the first purpose is a truth disclosure. Truth disclosure. But today, someone else, some other discipline has taken over that work, science. The science has taken over this truth disclosing function. And then art is somehow limited, relegated to the particular thing called subjective feeling, emotions. And that is a pathetic stage. If we want to rebuild our nations, art has a tremendous role to play. Not art as a kind of a vehicle of enjoyment, but art as a truth disclosure. think I finished with this. I gave you 3 points. This is enough for me. I'm open to take any questions if they are there.
Thank you so much, Father. I have a question for you. Like, how does Indian philosophy played a significant role in conceiving and shaping the monuments and their art in India?
Once again, sir.
How does Indian philosophy played a significant role in conceiving and shaping the monuments and their art in India?
India is known for its art, no doubt about it. India has not only museumized art. I say museumized. Art is not something to be kept in the museum, actually. Art is something to be lived. Art has to be with the people. When art is museumized, it is dead. But still, we need museums. We need theaters. We need galleries to preserve our art, to also educate people, to educate them about the value of art, how art becomes an expression of a particular culture, a particular tradition. We need museums. But then I would say when art becomes a monument, when art becomes museumized, that is the death of the art. But keeping that aside, Indian aesthetics is a wonderful contribution by Indian philosophy towards art. Look at the varieties of art. I'm not only talking about the sculptures. Look at the other varieties of art flourishing in India. But unfortunately, today, our approach to art has become narrowed down and limited only to one side, that sensual feelings or enjoyment, aesthetic feelings alone. I think my whole argument here was we have to have a broader vision into art, and also appreciating art. One difficulty or one dilemma which I feel is we look at Indian philosophy as something today with some historic curiosity. That alone should not be enough. Indian philosophy is something vibrant with the debates and discussions, with various varied streams of thoughts. I think we must rejuvenate that dynamic side of Indian philosophy. And how it can be done? It can be done only if Indian philosophy participates in the social life of India, in the economic life of India. Rather than today, what happens today is many of the universities, many of the our own institutes, we look at philosophy only with a historical curiosity. That is a bad state of our teaching. We must blame ourselves for our teaching. Yeah. Any other questions?
Hello, sir. We have one more question. What role does art play in an individual's life?
This has already been answered.
Yeah. I've been told about this particular answer could be the question could be connected with what I said just now. art has a particular role called truth disclosure. It has a role for our life. It has to give some guidance for our life. But unfortunately, today we have forgotten these ethical dimensions of art. Suddenly, we have to blame for a particular kind of metaphysical traditions which we are following. And what is that metaphysical tradition? The metaphysical tradition is of, some people would call it metaphysics of presence. And what is that? Metaphysics of presence? It's a progressive development of technological forces. And considering all that is quantifiable, only that is visible, only that is quantifiable are worth considering, are valuable, while art, ethics, culture, they have only a secondary value. So in such a situation, in such a kind of a tradition, a metaphysical tradition, the role of art is somehow gone down. The best way for that is you look into yourself and how you appreciate a movie, or how you appreciate a song for that matter. In what aspect of the movie you like it, and why you like a movie, why you like a song. And that would answer your question. Yeah. Anything more?
So my question to you is, what is the relationship between philosophy of education and national reconstruction?
Philosophy of education is not the topic which I dealt with.
Okay, thank you, Father. It was delighted to hear you. We have marked to the end of the program, and it's my privilege to propose a vote of thanks and acknowledge the contributions of those who worked really hard to make this webinar happen. I, Vipasha Tilotia, on behalf of the Bhopal School of Social Sciences, Bhopal, and the entire fraternity of the institution, first of all, extend my most sincere thanks to Almighty God for making today's event a resounding success. With His blessings and grace, we can make this webinar what it was. A special mention to our respected principal, Dr. Father John PJ, for being the catalyst that stimulated us to do our best. I would like to extend my gratitude to our Vice Principal, Dr. Sister Sonia, for her kind support and motivation. On behalf of my institution, I extend a special vote of thanks to our guest who has graced us and this occasion with their presence. An event like this cannot happen overnight. The wheels started rolling weeks ago. It requires planning and a bird's eye for detail. We have been fortunate enough to be backed by a team of very proactive and dedicated staff of our institution who are well versed in their job. A special thanks to the technical department for arranging all the technical facilities without which the event wasn't possible. And our humanities department along with the internal quality assurance cell for organizing the webinar. And our sponsors, Indian Council of Philosophical Research. With a deep sense of appreciation, we thank our loving teachers, HOD, Mrs. Naina Singh ma'am, Sangeeta ma'am, Shiva ma'am, student coordinator Arunita for their untiring efforts. And last, I'd like to thank the management committee for giving me a chance to host this webinar. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you so much. The feedback link is already posted in the chat box. Until and unless you don't fill the feedback form, you will not get the certificate. So please make sure that you fill the feedback form. And I request everyone to on your videos so that we can take a photograph, a virtual photograph. Ma'am, इसका video नहीं on होगा. I'll join, wait.
And you have joined some Manadi? Yes, ma'am. Switch on your video then. It's not visible.
Feedback link will be posted now.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Tiwari, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
Couldn't
you
have a chat
for
with you.
brilliant lecture. I liked.
I too like your very comprehensive beyond value system.
Thank you, Father.
Thank you everyone for joining. Please fill the feedback form and you can leave the meeting now.
Okay, Sangeeta, huh?
Yes.
You finished? So bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Yes.
See you.
Bye.
See you again. See you again.
Opening. It's not opening. मैंने देखा.
Forward it into the WhatsApp group also.
Huh?
Yeah, I will forward it.
Oh, it's
there.
opening. ये तो open होना है.
Just cross check now once.
मैंने किया ना. मैंने किया ना.
तो मैंने भूल गया
Thank you all. Thank you, ma'am.